As the Texas summer begins, we're seeing explosive trout activity along the coastlines, while the early morning topwater bass fight on the lakes makes for a fun dawn patrol experience.
And if this sounds like the perfect summer weekend, don't go anywhere because we have more reports for you here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
We're welcoming y'all back into the weekend, which now is an official summer weekend. And man, those temps sure are proving it, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right. But these guys, it's a little warm. So what? Just go early, catch a few fish.
So what?
Yeah, just go get a cheeseburger and then go out after you get a lucky rainstorm to cool the place off.
Man,
it certainly works well doing that.
Probably get some ice cream, but our captains and guides have all the tips to keep us cool while catching them up. But before we get to our first region, let's give a quick hello to Dave at the workbench. Dave, you staying cool over there?
I am staying cool over here, and we're going to talk a little bit today about catching some crappie. We're going to do some little crappie 101 type thing today.
Little summer grilling. All right, We're starting off the weekend of our first summer in the Upper Fresh region with Mike McFarland. Tell us what we're catching and how we're keeping cool, Mike.
Hey, Brie. Hey, Captain.
Hey,
yes,
bud.
We're trying to keep cool. It's hot. Let's talk about fishing on Ray Hubbard with my good friend Joe Shipley, Texas Frenzy Outdoors. The bass on Hubbard have moved offshore, 13 to 20 foot of water in the rocks, brush piles, and the marina wave breaks. Shaky head rigs with trick worms in the color red bug or green pumpkin. Also, Texas rigs, 10-inch worms and big jigs are producing well. Moving on to Lake Possum with Pete Hernandez. Fishing there is really good as well. The lake is completely full with clear to stained water, depends on where you are. The shad are being chased by the bass, and there's a lot of topwater action in the main lake creeks like Bluff, Caddo, and Cedar. Walking topwater baits like the Berkeley Jaywalker 110 is one of my favorites, and the Berkeley Driftwalker 100 in the color chrome and shad. Those are your best baits. Once the sun gets going, the deep bite gets good. So go to the 3/4 ounce jig in craw colors and a 10 to 12 inch rigged worms, Texas rigged worms in green pumpkin, plum, or plum apple. And the Bass Assassin has a really cool 12-inch worm that's great for that. All right, Athens. Just fished that myself. Water temperatures ranging 80 degrees, 1 to 2 foot visibility. The bass are good there. They're being found on the main lake points with brush piles and 8 to 14 foot of water. We're also catching some good fish there around the shallow grass edges with drop shot, finesse worms, and like Texas rig worms. Lake Lavon, Carrie Thorne. Carrie Thorne says the black bass spawn was awesome this year. There's 3-inch babies all over the lake, so future bass fishing on Lavon is going to be awesome. But right now it's also fishing good. A lot of 3 to 4 pound fish are being caught. He says they're on the underwater points, rock piles, brush piles, and riprap. Any of your kind of summer typical locations. Early morning, still throw that spinnerbait, white chartreuse spinnerbait. Go to a Squareville for the next hour or so. And then, of course, later in the day, get to your soft plastics, your Texas rig worms and jigs. Always the color watermelon red or Okeechobee craw. That's a great color on that lake. My home lake. I wanted to just tell you a big shout out to Skeeter Boats. Skeeter at Yamaha. We recently had the 29th annual Skeeter Owners event celebrating 75 years in business. They had 1,700 anglers competing to win a chance of 2 boats, believe it or not. Skeeter gave away 2 boats, one for the biggest over the slot, which is over 24 inches, and one for the smallest the biggest under the slot, which the fish can't touch 16 inches. So there was 11 fish over 24 inches caught with a 9.74 taking home a Skeeter SXR Apex model. That's a $100,000 boat. And then there was a 3-pound, 8-ounce under taking home a Skeeter ZX model. What a giveaway to their customers. Skeeter Boats, you can't beat it. Thank you, Skeeter, for all you do, all the staff that you did. It was a great event. And here's a pic of a Lake Fork Special, which is a common fish we catch here.
Nice. All right, tell us about the crappie, Pop.
Crappie on Joe Shipley again on Hubbard. The crappie there are good. They are deep on the bridge pillars and aprons. Minnows and crappie jigs are going to be your best bet there. Lake Lavon, he said, we're finding fish still shallow in the mornings only, 5 to 10 foot. But then get to your deeper stuff, 12 to 20 foot of water. Most of the schools are still suspending in 12 to 14. He actually says the timber is better than the brush piles, and the south half of the lake is fishing best. 1 16th, 1/8 ounce crappie jigs, chartreuse, black and chartreuse, and pink. My favorite guide for crappie, Jackie Wiggins, right here on my home lake, Lake Fork. He says the crappie actually, for the first time, have slowed down a little. They're transitioning to the summer trees in a little deeper water. He didn't see as many fish this week, but the brush piles in 14 to 22 feet and in 18 to 28 feet seem to really be your best bet to look for them. The jig bite is still strong, but your best deal is going to be to use those minnows. Minnows are always a good bait on Lake Fork. And here again is Jackie Wiggins himself, believe it or not. This is Jackie himself with a day's catch.
Nice. All right, tell us about the white bass, bub.
Guys, Kerry Thorne on Lake Levon. He says the mornings are still up on top busting shad. Use top waters and paddle swim baits. Again, that's where the Berkeley Bullet Pop, the Berkeley Jaywalker, the Berkeley Driftwalker, you can throw those top waters again. If you're not finding the surface activity, move off to the main lake points and use slab spoons. 1 ounce slab spoons at 5 to 20 feet. And he likes to take a slab spoon and tie a little jig above it, about 18 inches. He'll catch 2 fish at a time.
Nice.
And then hybrids on Tawakoni. Matt Cartwright says it's just on fire. The large shad is your best bait. And then your sand bass are on points in 20 to 28 feet of water. Again, another pick with Matt Cartwright, always catching those fish.
All right, tell us what's going on with the catfish. Yeah, give us a few.
Got a little with catfish? Let's do
bit.
Ray Hubbard. We haven't told you about catfish on Hubbard. They're eating good. They're up in the trees and around the rocks. Cut bait, and cut bait is really going to be your best bet. Sometimes you can chum a hole there, too. And as far as Tawakoni, Levon, those lakes are full of catfish. They're everywhere. They're on the points, 15 to 30 foot. Again, the cut shad's going to be your best bet.
All right, Mike, great report. Thanks for starting us off this week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Upper Fresh region. Our man Mike says Lake Levon is the place to be this week, fishing in the hot for all the freshwater species. 3 to 4 pound bass are being caught daily. It seems very abundant. Quick daily limits of crappie and white bass are easily achieved, and the catfish is on fire for both channel cats and blue cats. What do you think, Brie?
I think everything just sounds hot, hot, hot right
They
now.
like it hot.
They like it hot. All right, despite some not so calm conditions, the front runner boats Upper Coast region is showing off some nice catches. So let's see how it's being done with Captain Carl Weston. Go for it, Carl.
Hey guys, yeah, we've had a windy week, but the fish are still hungry. I mean, the flounder have made it back on the list again this week, which is surprisingly how good reports we've had coming in. Usually when the water gets warm, as you know, the flounder really slow down. But it's still on over by Seawolf Park. The size has dropped a little bit, but the number of fish are steady. They're over there hunting bait around those rocks and the pylons, like you know if you fish there. So they're easy to target. And I've also heard, I've got some good reports, there's fish out around that concrete ship on the west side. So try floating a small finger mullet out on a popping cork. Strip yourself off about 3 foot between the cork and the hook on your bait. Float it back. Or use try a 3-inch white Fight Club shrimp on a 1/4 ounce eagle claw jig head. They've both been money, folks, as well. Bounce that bait off the bottom around that structure, and you'll bring those fish to the party. You know, a whole flounder stuffed with blue crab will be your new friend, I guarantee you. Today we've got speaking of friends, my buddy Daryl has a picture of a flatty here in his boat.
Nice.
Staying inshore on redfish, what can I say? We've talked about it, Rick. You know the bite is on. It's on fire, like the temperature. But it's really hard to narrow down a certain area for bait right now, and that's a good problem. Live bait, artificial, are working almost the same on every spot we try, which shows the true numbers of fish we have. Bait seems to be easy to come by and catch. So all the bait shops have good shrimp, croaker. I don't know what you're waiting for. So fishing may not ever get any better than this right now. You know, over on the oyster reefs in West Bay, we've had a bunch of nice small to slot-sized reds moving around there. The open bays have slots to the larger-sized bulls chasing shad, shrimp near the channel edges along those grassy shorelines. Fish are most everywhere where there's bait. The bulls are along the jetties, along the beaches in 10 to 18 feet of water. They're hitting cut shad and bigger topwater lures like the Chapo 120. and the Magic Swimmer in gold. Surf fishing is really fun right now. Get out there and get you some of this. We've got a picture here today of Miss Cindy with a beautiful little red fish.
Nice.
And bumping offshore, guys, I'm going to talk about something we don't talk about a lot. We have them here in the Upper Coast, African pompano. It's a beautiful fish, fun to catch. We don't see a lot of them, but this year we're already seeing some. These fish usually hang around structure in the 100 to 180-foot range in our area. I've caught my first big pompano years ago at Tony's Rock, which is a place we always fish. Big rock pile in 160 feet of water. We would always run a drift line out where we're bottom fishing. It seems I've caught 90% of my fish using that method. A small live bait is on the menu for these guys. This is a great fighting fish. They get up to decent size, 30, 40 pounds. Wonderful table fare. My Penn Spinfisher 7500 spooled with 40-pound Diamond Malloy guys and a 6/0 Trocar live bait hook is what I love to use on this type of fish. And we usually find these fish here in the eastern part of the Upper Coast, but last week a good friend of ours caught a beautiful fish. Mr. Carabino caught this pompano down near Binks area, down near Matagorda.
Wow. Cool fish, man.
So
Look at those
cool.
streamers, dude. All right,
It
one
is.
more to go. Tell us about the red snappers.
Okay, we had, like I said, we had to deal with some wind this week. It's a little higher waves, so the snapper may have got a short holiday from us anglers. But all the spots I've hit, Rick, back east have held lots of beautiful big fish. A simple snapper rig with an 8-ounce sinker, 8 to 9-ounce Trocar hook rig with a 3-foot length of 100-pound diamond. And I use 100 in case you get in structure, you get frayed, you still get the fish in. Cut squid has been working great. Like we talked about, I always add a little fish bite. That's my insurance policy for the little bait robbers. And as we said before, I love to drop a large R&R bucktail with a pink piece of a strip bait on it and fight these guys. Something fun to try if you haven't done this before. I try to chum these schools up to the boat a little closer and sight cast to them with a bucktail. Man, when you get a big one that grabs your bait and takes you back down 100, 150 feet to the bottom, it's fun. Nothing but you and the fish, no heavy weight. And I got a picture today with a little one I snagged.
Nice. Well, that's a good one to
little
snag
one.
there, bub. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for giving us that report from the front runner Upper Coast region. We're going to go and take a look at the hot spots from the Upper Coast. He says flounder, free line, small finger mullet along the rocks at Seawolf Park, or toss a 3-inch Fish Bites Fight Club shrimp in white along the seawalls and the pylons. And then offshore, African pompanos, free line, a live bait over the structure, rigged on a trocar hook while bottom fishing.
I love that the African pompano are showing up. Those are such beautiful fish.
Yes, they are.
But encountered one. I've never actually caught one, but I've been on the boat when somebody else has caught one, and I was just amazed
You know
by
what
their
else
beauty.
they are? They're really,
Really good to eat. I know. All right, the Fish Bites and Middle Coast Region Captain is giving up his fish catching secrets next. But we all know Dave has some secrets up his sleeve at the workbench for rigs and techniques, and we're talking crappie stuff.
Yep. A lot of these aren't real secrets, but we've got a lot of cool things to show people. We got a lot of cool things.
Go get jiggy with it, I can see.
We are.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, we're here at the workbench. Time for a little bit of rigs and techniques. We're going to talk about crappies.
Yeah, they're a great fish to catch. It's if you're out bass fishing for the day and you want to, bring home some fish, it's always, if you're a good lake with some good crappie in it, it's a good time. Catch a few bass and then go and get you a limit of crappie and take those home and eat them. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, they're a great eating fish. They have, real sweet white meat and they fry up nice. There's nothing better for a nice fish fry than a mess of crappie.
That's for sure.
We got 2 species in Texas, the black and the white. The black is mostly over in East Texas. The white can be found in all. It's hard to tell the difference a lot of times depending on the water they're in, but a white crappie has more of the vertical and the black crappie has little specks all over it.
Right.
And that's pretty much how you tell the difference. Doesn't make much difference because they both eat just fine. They're all sunfish like a bass.
Right.
He's one of the, like a brim and everything else. And they school up a lot. They're more of a schooling fish. If you find one, there's probably going to be more than one there. And they school up in different places during different times of the year. In the dead of winter, they can be found really deep, 25, 30 feet of water, trying to stay into a place where the temperature doesn't change much, stays at a good even temperature, hopefully warmer than it is up to the surface. So that's why they get in those big balls deep. And in the spring and early summer almost until they're spawning.
Right.
Early in the winter and in the spring there, and they get up in the shallow water, 10 to 15 feet up around the docks and the pilings and any brush that's in the water, stumps and whatnot in the shallower water, 10 feet deep, maybe 6 feet to 10 feet deep. And they do a lot of their spawning. They congregate in there. A lot of the females get in there, and make big. They nest together, so they'll get into big congregations, and they're really easy to find, and you can really get into them really good when they're in the wintertime. In the summertime, they start to move, like right about now, they're starting to move out into the deeper water again. They're not going to that winter depth. They're hanging, in the mid depth between 15 and 20 feet, maybe a little deeper, maybe a little shallower. But it's really good to find that depth, that target depth where they're hanging, because you don't really want to go underneath of them. A crappie likes to rise up to his food. Johnny Jice told me that many times the day we were fishing for him out there. He doesn't, you want to keep your bait above him no matter what you're using. Now, for baits, the minnow is probably the best of all. You can't really beat a live
minnow rig.
Yep, like a little minnow rig like that. It's like a drop shot type of deal.
With a hook.
You put 1 hook or 2 on there and put you a couple minnows on there. Which it's best to either work your way down or work your way up. Start at the bottom, maybe work your way up, find out where you're starting to get the bite, leave it in a little area for a little bit, leave it for a little area in a little bit. You start getting a bite in that area, that's where you want to start targeting. Mm-hmm. And you can do that with, like I said, with the minnows, or you can use jigs or swim jigs. You can cast and try to catch them on a swimming jig, like that little paddle tail or something like that. Those Bass Assassin, Panfish Assassins, and the Crappie Dapper. Both of those work really well. As a matter of fact, sometimes they won't eat a minnow.
Right.
You can get into a point where they're not one to eat the minnow, they only want to eat the jig, And, the old Malibu jigs have always been work really well. The great thing about the Malibu jig is when it's not moving, when you're completely still, all those hairs and stuff move just a little bit and give it the illusion of being alive, which really will trigger that strike. It's the same thing with these little with a little Panfish Assassin with that little jiggly tail. With one of these long rods that are pretty light action,
right.
You can't keep that thing real still. All you gotta do is hold that thing and that little tail just vibrates, and it does the same thing on the end of this long rod. So, that little trigger keeps you going. Another really cool way to target a specific depth, I don't know if you can see here, I've got a little bobber stopper on there.
Yeah,
and
black thing.
That little black thing. And what that does is you put that way up your line, and this bobber will follow it all the way up as that jig sinks. And you just set that bobber stopper at 15 feet or 20 feet up your line. Once that bobber hits that bobber stopper, that's where it'll stop, and your bait will settle right, 15, 20 feet exactly where you've set that bobber stopper.
So focus right here and watch. I'm gonna drop the jig. Watch what happens here. It's gonna hit right up there. Boom. See how it hit right there?
Yeah.
There's the bobber stopper right there.
And it'll stop
That's
right
cool.
there, and that's really great for keeping your bait suspended exactly where you want it, and you get to see it when you get the bite.
Yeah.
So what this allows you to do is you can cast without having a 20-foot
Yeah.
You can't, it's impossible to cast with a bobber that far away from your hook. But
Listen,
that's a really cool way to do it.
Everybody likes a pull down.
That's right.
That's it. That's what that bobber's all about.
That's right.
Bobber stopper, bobber stopper, bobber stopper. I did it. I didn't know if I could say that 3 times fast. All right, if trout, redfish, flounder, and red snapper sound like a fun, productive weekend of fishing, then listen in on the Fish Bites Middle Coast region with Captain Bink Grimes. I know it's been hot, Bink, and it's only going to get hotter.
Only going to get hotter.
Oh.
Temperatures reaching the century mark have made for get on the water early and let's get off the water early. Water temperatures are boiling. They're almost at like 90 degrees, and that's something that I haven't seen in a long, long time in June. But there's good news. The fish are still biting. And Palacios, the upper reaches of the bay, like Tres Palacios and Caranqua, have been good along the shorelines. Been wading tight to the reef and picking off solid trout early in the morning. Waders in East Bay have used topwaters and bass assassins and found good fish off the tips of reef. That's really been the relief to all the heat, man. Get in the water and wade fish. Port O'Connor continues to shine for trout around Pascaval. I've been down there a lot of mornings. Early morning topwater action's been great. Later in the morning, captains, we're going to like chest deep channels and working the depths with bass assassins and little johns. Then at Rockport, anglers tossing corkies and soft irons along the sand and grass humps are scoring big. When that tide comes in through the Lydian Channel, it's bringing fresh recruits of fish from the Gulf. They're riding the tide, and they'll show you where they are by the slicks that are forming behind them. The jetty park around Surfside has been good for anglers walking the rocks and tossing topwaters and bass assassins parallel to the granite. Some really good trout there along the rock. There's the photo of 7-pound trout we caught and released in East Matagorda Bay while drifting over deep shell. With these water temperatures as high as they are right now, it's important to get that fish back in the water quickly. You got to get them in there. Dissolved oxygen levels are lower because of the heat, and you got to take care of those big fish. We'll go to flounder. Flounder action has been good in the bios and guts along the south shoreline of West Matagorda Bay while wading with live shrimp and scented bait. Best action has been early in the morning as many of those flounder pull up really shallow during the night. Then solid catches have come around Port O'Connor and Rockport as well. Most of those fish are off the point, a shell. They're just lying there waiting to ambush. Muddy bottoms have been best around Freeport and around bayous close to San Luis Pass. They're holding good numbers of flatfish as well. Our back lakes are holding redfish and Oyster Lake, Crab Lake, Horse Trailer Lake. Don't be surprised to find black drum all over those reefs as well. Shell Island has been good in Matagorda on the high tides. In Port O'Connor, Pringle, Conti, and Shoalwater are holding good numbers of red. Most people have been making long drifts with live shrimp or small topwaters and catching those fish. And if you want the big bulls, it's a broken record, but every week, those oversized reds are hanging out at the jetties from Port O'Connor to Freeport to Port Aransas. There's some really big monsters in Port O'Connor right now, Freeport as well. Finger mullet and pogies are getting the job done. There's a lot of pogies coming in from the Gulf, and those big reds are just getting after them. Some schools have been coming to the surface later in the day, and they're crushing large rafts of those pogies. You throw a topwater in there, and man, hang on. Offshore red snapper is a bit bumpy in the Gulf this week, but those red snapper are where they always are. They're over those rocks and wrecks in 40 to 80 foot of water. Kingfish are also beginning to show closer to the beach. Like I said, beach water temperatures were about 88 to 89 this week. There's still a lot of swords and tuna out, 80 to 100 miles out. It's just hot out there. We're asking you, man, just stay hydrated and wear quality sunglasses. I've been wearing a lot of those Bahios. I've been so impressed with them. I just got some. I've been seeing so many things underneath the surface that I never did, including about a 7-foot shark that he's right by me while I was waiting this week. I never would have seen him if I hadn't had those glasses on. So just keep doing what's best for our bays and oceans, and leave more than you take, and stay hydrated, stay cool, and keep catching and releasing.
All right, bud. Thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Bink says the trout are good around Freeport while walking the jetties, and you can toss topwaters and bass assassins while you're doing that. And then if you want to go redfish, and the redfish are best in the back lakes and the guts and the bios on the incoming tide.
Bink is not wrong about these Bahios. You see so much more. I couldn't believe it. I know you agree. Everyone agrees. But when you hear it from Captain who's in the water every single day, he sees more than he ever has.
There's
There's something to be said about that.
Give 'em
you know
a
what?
try,
I think
guys.
we should get those neck fans.
Yes.
Right? I saw someone fishing with it the other day. I thought it was not you know,
That'd be
it's pretty
cool.
smart.
That's cool.
Maybe Dave will have it on new products.
Yes.
All right, we're getting our summer sizzle on in the Middle Fresh and Lower Coast region, so stay hooked. Dave said no, we won't. And make sure to take a look at the QR code on your screen and scan away for an all-access pass to our social media outlets, where you can like and follow our Instagram and Facebook pages, and to see all new fishing adventures, tips, and reports, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. Shallow Sport, the Texas legend. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. And Penn, let the battle begin.
Today I would like to go over a little more advanced technique when using a power pole shallow water anchor. First thing I do when leaving the dock is pay attention to the wind direction and the sun. My goal is to fish all shorelines, flats, or docks with the wind and the sun at my back. Doing this gives me the best shot at sneaking up on fish and spotting them from further away. It also dramatically increases my casting distance. Throwing with the wind as opposed to casting directly into the wind is another key tip. Another advantage to approaching spots like this, when I'm working an area with the wind at my back, I do not have to use my trolling motor nearly as much. I also don't have to turn it up on higher speeds, which reduces hole slap and other noises that could spook fish. I'm trying to be as stealthy as possible and let the wind push me down a shoreline, giving me the best advantage possible. When I see a fish or I hook up, I deploy the power pole silently in the water. My boat remains facing downwind, even with a single power pole anchor. Next time you're out on the water, fish with the wind and the sun at your back, and I guarantee your catches will go up. That's your power pole tip.
You know what else? You know what else you can do, Brie?
What?
A lot of the guys love to wade.
Yep.
And you can get out wading. You can simply push your power pole button twice, lift the power poles, run your trolling motor from 100 yards away,
Right.
Bring the boat close to you. It's really cool that we have that ability to control what the boat does between power poles and trolling motor remotes.
Right. I mean,
Pretty
you
cool
can't
deal.
go wrong with power pole, no matter which way you look at it.
That's right.
All right, now we're headed to the Startron Middle Fresh region, where we might be practicing some patience this weekend with certain species. So let's get the 411 with Matt Loescher. Hope you had a great Father's Day, Matt.
I sure did, Bree. Thank you very much. And unfortunately, I do have to report a little bit slower bite overall across the Middle Fresh region this week. But I'm gonna go through some stuff on the largemouth bass starting out to kind of give you a heads up on how to overcome that as we get into the weekend bite. So I'm going to start off at Richland Chambers with Mr. Thurman Selman, Bass Specialty Guide Service up there. He's always figuring out how to catch them no matter how tough the bite is. And he let me know that even though the bite is slower on Richland Chambers this week, they are catching some bass out along the creeks and the points. He said he's using a jig and he's putting a Bass Assassin crawl on the trailer and, just fishing it slow, taking his time with that slower bite. And he says that's putting some fish in the boat. He says the water's still high up there, and that may be cause for some of the slower bites. And the temperature has worked its way up into the low 80s now. So kind of a conditions deal maybe affecting the bite there and really across the Middle Fresh region. But he's still putting some fish in the boat anyway. Now down here on Toledo Bend, the bite has tapered off some here as well, especially the offshore bite. There just hasn't been as much feeding activity quite this week. It's just overall slower. They're just not feeding as often. But I'm sure that's going to be turning around soon. We have seen a significant weather shift this week. We've got a lot more southern winds now finally beginning to blow. And with that comes much warmer air and water temperatures and a lot of afternoon thunderstorms, a lot of instability, a lot of lower pressure changes with the barometric pressure. And I think that's affecting these fish a lot. And as this weather pattern begins to stabilize and the moon phase begins to, the moon begins to grow and start to shine more in the next week or two, I look for that to get a lot better. The water temperatures have crept all the way up into the mid-80s now in Toledo. and the level is about 9 inches below full and fairly stable. It's been there for quite a while now. I'd like to see that come on down some to help the bite. The clarity is fairly stained on most of the lake. On the main lake, it's fairly clear, and then up in the creeks, it's got a little bit more stain. You can see about a foot deep. I'm still hearing that lots of folks are catching fish at dawn and dusk on frogs around the shallow vegetation. So you can still get that shallow bite in the early morning, late evening hours. And then the grass now is really thriving in some areas. So where you can find that thicker, deeper hydrilla grass, punching down in that hydrilla has become a good option when the sun's up high in the middle of the day. The offshore bite, as I mentioned, is just slow. It's kind of got us scratching our heads a little bit, but if you do find some fish offshore, you're going to want to drag a worm nice and slow through them, use some more finesse-style techniques to catch them. Over at Sam Rayburn, the bass are hanging out in the clear water areas, the water level being high, and recent storms have kept the lake a little more stained over there. And they're generating now and pulling it down some, and that's kind of keeping that water moving, which is bringing the water level down, and I'm hearing that it's starting to gang up some fish a little bit better offshore there. I'd say Rayburn probably has one of the best offshore bites going on right now. Some good schools have been producing fish there in about 15 to 25 feet of water. Crankbaits and Carolina rigs are dominating on that bite. And then around dusk and dawn, you can also look for some topwater bites around the shallow vegetation, but the offshore bite has definitely increased over there. And I've got a photo of a nice bass there with Miss Stephanie Pellerin. She's a lady angler that really kicks a lot of the men's butt and really dominates on the women's circuit as well over there around Rayburn especially. Now switching over to the crappie, the Toledo Bend crappie have been a little slower this week as well. The fish just don't want to feed as much lately. We're still seeing them, but just not catching them as well. Like the bass, I believe that's going to change over the next week or so. We've still been able to catch a nice mess of fish every day, thankfully, and the size has been fantastic this season overall, and that still holds true even with the lower numbers days. But they're hanging out in about 20 to 30 feet of water. They're suspended about 10 to 15 feet down, and they're hanging out around the timber and the bridge pilings and some of the deeper docks. We've got another photo here for you of the Habit family with some real nice slabs there they caught with me recently, having a good time.
It looks like they're having a good time.
We're going to switch over to the white bass. Thankfully, the white bass, usually when you get around them, they're biting. They seem like they're always feeding. They're always hungry. And I've been hearing a lot of good things about the white bass at Rayburn this week. That current that they're pulling through the lake has really got those white bass fired up. They're hanging out on the main lake humps and points, and a silver jigging spoon is usually the best bait for catching them. If you see them come up to the top, use a topwater plug to catch them like that.
All right, bud, thank you so much. Great report, Matt. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine hotspots from the Middle Fresh region. Matt says the largemouth bass are feeding shallow at dawn and dusk and then go out deeper during the day. The crappie are fair on Toledo Bend and 20 to 30 feet on minnows and jigs. Then the white bass are feeding at Sam Rayburn on the points and humps.
I think the fish are adjusting to the heat just like our captains are. They're like, we'll get there. Yeah. We're going to get there. All right, it's time to break out the liveys if trout and redfish are part of your... Yeah.
Okay.
The liveys, the live baitsies.
I know
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What, you don't like my abbreviations?
I like your things.
Okay. Well, we're going to the Lower Coast region to catch up with Captain Chad Kinney to talk about those liveys and to see what else we need to know. Hi, Chad.
Tell you what, it's been a really hot one, windy and stuff like that. This weekend's looking a lot better. We're getting a break in it, so I'll get you guys some good info of what we're doing with this different wind and the heat conditions that we've been having down here. So talking about inshore first. The inshore, the trout fishing has been really solid. We've been talking about it all year long. The holdover coast is really good, and right now we're going to talk about some South Padre Island areas as we're producing really good along the Long Bar and ICW. The redfish aren't in like huge numbers. They kind of moved off the flats, but they moved out to some deeper waters. So we'll talk about that here in a bit. And that jetties there. I spoke with Eddie Curry out of SBI Charters out of South Padre Island. This guy's been fishing down there for a long time. Really great guide. If you need some info on it, just give me a holler and I get in contact with you. And but the trout bite's been really good at the Long Bar and on the ICW. A live croaker's working the best on this right now. Free-lined, or you can add a chatter weight, especially if you're fishing in that deeper water. That chatter weight is a little bit of a weight, makes some noise. It helps that bait get down deeper to where the fish are at. With these higher currents in the ICW, sometimes a little trick is you don't even have to cast as far. That current's going to push it out, so you can kind of barely do a little flip, almost like if you're a bass fisher, flip it out along the drop-off, let some line out, free line it, and it'll get down to the area where those trout are feeding at, and they'll thump it really good. The bait will get deeper, like I said, where the fish are at. With these higher temps, we've had some really crazy high temps. So that's why we've been finding some of these fish in these deeper grass beds and the drop-offs from the long bar to ICW. They're getting down in that cooler water. These are perfect areas right now. Also, when you get out there, you get your dual power poles to hold you right in place, right on those edges. If you're fishing off the edge of the ICW right there, double power pole down, perfect right there. If you're fishing the gut along the long bar and you're out kind of in the channel and you're casting into those guts, then you can switch over from your power pole and go to your Rodan trolling motor, put in an anchor lock on those deeper areas and just cast to those edges and let them float from one edge of the gut to the next gut for the drop-offs, and the trout bite's really solid. Here's a good mixed bag size. They're good trout there. The Eddie Curry's client caught. Remember, it's 17 to 23 inch keepers here right now. So nice. Redfish action, like I said, it's been kind of slow in the flats. A lot of wind, a lot of boat traffic. I think it's pushing those fish in some deeper water. They're in that 5 to 6 foot range, and also to the jetties. So if you're kind of targeting these fish right now, you need to make really long drifts and make you switch over to a heavier jig head, probably go to a 1/4 ounce eagle claw jig head with a saltwater assassin sea shad, and slow down the retrieve, bounce it off the bottoms, and move it through there. At the jetties, they've been hit and miss kind of with this weather we've had, trying to get out there, but when it is, it's been good with live croaker and also some live mullet, and hit those washouts in those deeper areas right there. Key is make sure to kind of hit that when the tide starts to just fall out and drop. That'll turn the bite on, and you got to be patient, put your time in, but those fish will move in there and get some good action. Moving to offshore, snapper fishing, we're talking about that. It's open in state and federal, but federal's open, and they are thick out there. They're on pretty much any structure out there. Also, these warmer waters starting to show up. We're getting some cobia, some ling starting to be caught also. So that's snapper fishing. It's great action. You can't beat it down here. We got some of the best, I think, in the world, and they're great to eat also. So basically, find out any good structure you got out there and drop over a 1 to 3 ounce eagle claw jig head. You can attach a fish bite to it and look for those suspended fish. If you're fishing in, say, 150 foot of water, you can get them up there 30, 50 foot below the surface, and they're going to get really, really in a feeding frenzy and get attacked. They'll attack the heck out of that jig. And the best thing about that also is, one, you got some really good fish suspended, but when you're catching suspended, they equalize really easy. So when you release them, you don't harm them, you don't have to bend them, you don't do anything. They're going to take off and you're good to go. A great combo on this, what we're using a 10 spin fisher, about 6500 series with a blue Carnage jigging rod. And if you're using an open face, we're using a Torque 30 wide spool with some 30-pound Mamoy mono. And with an eagle claw circle hook, like a 12 to 13 ounce circle hook on that. Talking about some cobia, some ling. They haven't been in big numbers, but we've seen a few, and they're starting to show up. Have a pitch bait ready. I usually have like a 1 ounce eagle claw jig ready with a paddle tail attached to it. This will give it some action when you get in there. When they'll come up right behind the boat. You just never know when and how or why, but they'll pop right up. So pitch that jig up, be ready, move it erratically. If they shy off from it for some reason, then throw some chum out there. And the main thing in this, when you throw chum, don't throw all sorts of different sizes. Keep the chum size the same, and put the same size chum on your hook. It's like a 7/0 live bait hook, works really good. Just free line that in the mix. Watch that cobia hit it. When he takes it, just let him run about 20, 30 feet, and then slowly set the hook, and you'll be fight will be on. Make sure you wear these fish out, because they're going to be really green, and they can really make a mess in the boat there. So when you gas them, go straight into the cooler. We got a saltwalker out of South Padre Island sent me this picture, a 58-pound cobia they got.
Wow, that's a nice one.
Yum.
All right, Chad, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspot. Chad says that inshore, the trout bite is good out of South Padre Island by the Long Bar and the ICW and Cullen House. And then offshore, snapper bite has been excellent with some cobia, ling showing up around the structure. Brie, I was just thinking we need to find out when the date is for next year's shallow sport tournament.
Yep.
Owners tournament, we gotta go.
And just book it.
Yep, that's
yeah,
what
I agree. Let's just do it.
We'll even take Davey Root.
Oh, there we go. I heard a sigh over in the corner over there.
There was a huge sigh.
All right, we're casting into the lower fresh region when we come back, and we're looking at some Tucker Marine new products at the workbench with Dave, sighing Dave.
Well, the reason you didn't do well in that tournament last year is you didn't have a party barge.
Oh.
You didn't have some booze on the side of the boat.
Some tin cup with our...
Yeah, get out to go wade. You can slap this on the side of the boat.
That'll work good for old Chad.
Yep.
He likes to put his beer in them cup holders.
We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Fenwick, feel everything. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Island Lures, tournament tackle. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miro lure. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. And Startron. Start, run, and store with Startron.
Well, we're here at the workbench, and it's time to troll the edge with Taco Marine. Some new products, Dave.
Yes,
so
sir.
What do we got?
Well, we're going to start over there with those Toit side cutters in the sheath. These are really cool. I believe that the guys in Australia made these, but, you know, don't hold me to it.
Right.
These are stainless steel drop forged side cutters. They have a brazed tungsten carbon insert in the tip there, which you can't really see because it's covered up. It's got an internal spring inside there. It's spring loaded, an ergonomic handle, and it really nice soft finish on them. They feel really good in your hands.
They do.
They're heavy and they feel like they're really well made. It's got a PVD tile-in surface coating to shed salt and corrosion, and the sheath over there is a vegetable tanned buffalo leather sheath. It's got a double stitch on the outer profile, so it's never going to come apart. It's got stainless steel eyelets on there, and you can add that stainless steel clip on the back. It comes with all stainless hardware.
If you want to put it on your belt.
If you just want to put it on the side of your pants, it's already got a belt loop on the back there, the nice leather belt loop that goes around the back. So you go to fishrazor.com to check out those Toit tools.
Okay.
Next, we have the Penn Battle 3 combo. It's the most popular Penn combo, and it's now a little bit stronger and smoother and more durable than the last one. That is the Battle 3 reel, the 4000. It's got CNC gears inside, the HT100 carbon fiber drag, 6.2 to 1 gear ratio. This little reel is a great all-around reel for just about everything inshore.
It's a workhorse. But
yes, 5.1
really
stainless steel ball bearings. Just a really good little, yes, exactly. And it's a 7-foot rod, medium action, graphite composite. It's what I like about it. It's got the really nice Penn Dura guides, which are stainless steel guides. There's no insert to break or fall out or mess up your line.
Right.
The rod is rated for 10 to 17 pound mono or 10 to 30 pound braid, so you can put a lot of strain on it.
Nice stuff.
PennFishing.com to go get your Penn Battle 3 combo.
Okay.
Next, we got the Paul Brown's Crazy Croaker. This has been used in Texas for a long time. It's a Texas favorite. That's a 2 3/4 inch version. It's got that unique flat nose design. It's got a little flat nose on it that's kind of angled, and that thing just goes crazy. If you twitch it real fast and move it fast, it's going all over the place. And if you slow down and just move it real slow, it looks like a dying bait. So it'll work fast or slow, whichever you want to do. That's a 5/8 ounce bait. It runs between 3 and 6 feet, depending on how fast or slow you're moving it. So
where do we go to get these?
ShopMirrorLure.com, and you'll find those. Shop Mirror Lure.
Yeah, because Mirror Lure owns Paul Brown.
They own a lot of things. Yes, they do.
Drone.
Shop.
They own
Island Lures, which, very, very nice.
Yes.
Next, last and not least here, we've got the Sea Sucker double-decker party barge.
Nice.
This thing slaps right on any vertical surface. Inside the boat or outside the boat. You got a nice vertical surface. You pull up to the sandbar. You want to get out and have some cocktails.
You don't want to have to get back in?
Yeah, you slap this thing on the side of the boat, pump it up there, and it'll stay up there. It's got, I think, a 400-pound of pull strength with these two big Sea Sucker discs on the side. They got one in the middle here that holds a really nice little ice bucket for you.
Or you can put whatever else you want.
Whatever you put, any kind of bucket.
Don't
have to put the ice bucket. You can put any kind of thing there that you want. It's got 3 different holes here for liquors and mixers.
And I love the fact that you can adjust as the different size.
You can
bottles.
put a whole handle. You can put a big handle in here, or
Look how smart these guys are.
You can put a little bottle of wine. A little round bottle. Doesn't matter if it's a square bottle, round bottle. You can use these to get it in there really hard, and it won't move around. Not only that, it comes with 4 different holders in the front here, cup holders with the inserts. You can put your beers or your cocktails in there and let them sit.
There's a spot here for your knife too.
Yeah, 2 little places there for you can put a little tool, knife to cut up your limes or whatnot.
I like it. You think we could use this, Brie? We could put this to use.
I think we're gonna make a lot of friends with that over there.
Yes,
for
you will.
sure. Yep, we are.
Especially if it was full. Especially if it was full.
Yeah,
so you can go to
exactly.
seasucker.com to pick you up the double-decker party barge.
All right. There we go, Brie.
There we go, making friends. All right, we're getting back on track in the lower fresh region. So let's see how and where Matt Reed is catching the biggins. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Bree, let's kick this thing off down in the middle of summer. Falcon Lake is getting back. The water level is beginning to fall again. And, you know, as bad as I don't like the water level to fall, that really begins to position the fish out on the main lake drops right where I want them to be. Shaky heads, Texas rigs, big crankbaits are producing some big ones right now. That 10 to 18 foot zone is best to get out there and catch you a fish of a lifetime. Brian Cotter with Texas Hogs Guide Service sent me a report from the Austin area. Decker Lake is fishing really well. Small floating frogs early in the morning tied to the reeds has been very good. After that bite slows down, he's switching to a little 4 and 5 inch Texas rig worm, throwing it in the same areas, real tight to the reeds, you know, lightweight Texas rig, working real slow in the grass. You catch a lot of 3 to 5 pound bass and a few of them up to 9 pounds lately. Lake Travis is fishing very well. The early top water bite is on, tight to the bluffs early in the morning. We get you a jaywalker or a popper and throw it right up against the rocks, and that's where the bite is taking place. Some fish are schooling in the deeper marinas, surface schooling, chasing shad. Walking style top waters are best for those also. Catching a few of them on mid-depth crankbaits, throwing it under the activity on top. Later in the day, you want to throw a shaky head, a finesse jig, or a Texas rig out on the deep ledges to get some bites as the day goes on. Lake Bastrop also kicking out some good fish. Work the discharge area, early in the morning with small swim baits or a light Texas rig. You want to drift it with the current in that discharge, the water flowing out of there. Just let the flow move it, along the edge. That way you'll pick up those bites. Later in the day, the bass are schooling on the main lake. Just look for water blowing or the birds working them. Small swim baits or clear top waters are the best to get those fish to bite. You can also throw, jerk shad, finesse worm, or creature bait on the outside hydrilla line and at 10 to 12 feet of water. Greg Boyk sent me a report from Summerville. The heat has Summerville fishing really slow. Largemouth are biting decent early in the morning on shad-colored topwater poppers and walking baits along the rocks. But as the sun gets on up, you want to find those isolated brush piles in 12 to 18 feet. Texas rig worms and black, plum, and blue fleck have been best. Fayette County, just skip shallow stuff over there right now. Move on out to the deep main lake points. The drop-offs and road beds have been working also. Carolina rigs with big worms and at 12 to 18 feet of water. Also, some fish making their way into the discharge because of that running water. Throw your Carolina rigs in there, also on the rocks on either side. Got 3 bass pictures there. One of them was one of Brian Cotter's clients at Decker with a beautiful 9-pounder.
Nice.
The second picture is Greg Boyd's client from over at Fayette County with a nice solid chunk, which that lake has a ton of. Mm-hmm. And the last one is Isaac with me down at Lake Falcon and just a big old Falcon special.
Good sized fish on 3 different lakes. I love it.
That's it.
I love it.
All right, tell us about the kitty cats.
Let's talk about the kitty cats a little bit. Falcon Lake, Ram Reyes has sent me a report. The catfishing is picking up a whole lot since post-spawn conditions are beginning to go away. The water's dropping slightly, which is beginning to pull the schools of catfish out to the river edge. The shallower ones that are left, the float rig with you bait about 3 feet under them with shad or shrimp has been key for catching just the keeper-sized blues and channel cat. But those bigger ones are out on the deep main river channel. Big cut shad or cut carp has been your best ticket for those giant blue cat. And he's got a picture there of 3 big grins with giant blue cats in there.
Those are nice blue cats, man.
Eating for a long time, you get one of those.
Big babies.
That's awesome. All right, Matt, thank you so much. We're looking forward to talking to you next week. Hopefully the heat won't be so bad down south. You're not too far from the ranch, and you know what? We'll be there before you know it. So good to talk to you. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots for the lower fresh region. My man says Lake Travis is fishing very well. Throw jaywalkers on the bluff early for the great topwater bite. That will work until you run out of shade. And then the bass are also beginning to school up on the shads in the deep marinas. Small swim baits are going to work the best way to capitalize on that opportunity later, then throw shaky heads with finesse worms to keep the numbers rolling. And Travis is always a perfect lake for sun and numbers.
Well, everybody can't stop talking about the heat and how hot it's getting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, for Texans that are accustomed to the heat and how to adjust based on their fishing styles and whatnot, what about the newbies in Texas that are going fishing in the summertime? What are some tips we can kind of give them right off the bat?
Go deeper. You're gonna have to go deeper.
Go deeper.
Yeah, and you know what, on the safe side of things, because
Yeah.
I was just there filming at the Port Arthur Jetties,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of new hydration type of drinks.
Liquid
Not
IV.
only do you just have water,
Right.
but have some of those,
Yeah, that's smart.
you know, new type of drinks. Don't drink the Celsiuses and the Red Bulls
That's
and
me.
all the stuff, because those are only going to dehydrate
Yeah.
you. Iced tea, not good to drink. Diet sodas, not good to drink. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind, guys. It's really important to
Good
hydrate.
one. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Be safe there out on the water. Drink your liquid IV. We'll see you next week. Happy summer.